Crack open a cold one. I'm about to hit you with a salty short. What's up, guys? Today's salty short is the first ever fan requested one, which is stupid exciting. Charis, I think it's Charis. Anyway, Charis, one of the top fans from the Facebook page, requested the dish, so I'm gonna supply the story. Slam bet that shot, guys. How many of you guys like shrimp? I know I'm a shrimp fan, and not just because I'm travel sized. So as you watch me whip up this quick, easy coconut shrimp, I'm gonna tell you guys a crustacean-inspired story. We're going back, way back, all the way back to 1987. To Sri Lanka, in fact. In January of 1987, Sri Lanka was 4 years into a war that was just about to wrap up in another 20 years or so. One of those quick, non-drawn-out civil wars, am I right? The war was fought between the government of Sri Lanka, with India getting the assist from 1987 to 1990, and the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam. We're just going to call them the LTTE for short, because that's a lot of words, and I've had some whiskey. The roots of the conflict go back to when the country, or the region, was under British colonial rule. As we're well aware, Britain was all about the colonializing of things, so that extended to Sri Lanka. Tension between two ethnic groups, the Sinhalese and the Tamils, was an ever-present tension thing and undercurrent of the country. Discriminatory acts against the Tamils stoked some anti-government sentiment since the country declared its independence in the mid-1900s. In 1983, after years of attempted and sometimes successful assassinations, ambushes, and guerrilla tactics, the country was pretty much at war. Pretty much at war. The war was marked by governmental troops attempting to occupy territory and the LTTE conducting ambushes on these troops. Massacres were common, and the country quickly became war-torn. In 1985, 2 years after the war started, and so many years before it would wrap up, peace talks were initiated and quickly broke down, because why not? This brings us to January 1987, in the village of the name on the screen, because I'm going to butcher the shit out of that. There was a shrimp farm. It was owned by the Serendip Seafood Limited Company, which is owned by American investors based in Hong Kong, with some local partners from Sri Lanka. Side note, one of these local partners was Sam Tambimutu. He's a supporting character of this story, absolutely has nothing involved in it, but the later life is kind of interesting after the massacre, so I decided to throw his name in there. Now, on the morning of July 27th, it was a normal day. Normal day, like any other day at the shrimp farm. The workers arrived, started their shrimp planting, shrimp watering, shrimp harvesting, shrimp farming. Suddenly, helicopters start circling the compound. Trucks screech to a stop at a crossroads in the village that I can't pronounce, which is near the farm. Personnel in military gear swept into the farm, rounded up the employees, and gathered them outside, checking their IDs. 40 or so of these employees were loaded into a semi-truck trailer and driven to a nearby crossroads, where they were promptly executed. Pew-pews in the back of the head. Upon hearing this firing of guns, the rest of the employees fled, taking shelter in the shrimp farm. Unfortunately for them, hiding among the crustaceans would not help, as a further 40 were rounded up and killed. The bodies were then burned on piles of tires lit on fire. All in all, 83 employees were killed in the massacre, some between the ages of 12 and 14. It's pretty young, man. It's pretty Anyway, relatives of the victims claimed the massacre was carried out by a government police unit called the Special Task Force, which is really creative name-wise. Special Task Force. It's supposed to be an elite counter-terrorist, counter-insurgency force. The government believed the farm was being used as a base for the LTTE activities, which would justify the attack. However, when the attack occurred, any militants who may have been using the farm as a base fled, leaving only the workers. The government denied the massacre taking place. However, the managing director of the Serendip Food Company refuted the government's claim of innocence. Y'all motherfuckers are fake news. The impact this massacre had on the Sri Lankan Civil War is difficult to gauge accurately. As I said before, massacres and guerrilla warfare were incredibly common during the war, so being able to accurately gauge the effect of this one specific massacre is kind of difficult. Kind of like a needle and stack of needles kind of thing. However, not long after the Prawn Farm Massacre, as it came to be called, India intervened more directly in the war, airdropping supplies to rebel forces in a few instances. In one of those instances, these rebel forces were actually under siege in a city, and India forces airdrop supplies to them so they can continue resisting the siege. The war would last until 2009, when the LTTE admitted defeat and the president of Sri Lanka, whose name I definitely can't pronounce, officially declared the war was over. The foreign owner of the farm would sue and eventually win against the Sri Lankan government, which resulted in the victims or the victims' families being paid some kind of financial compensation, which I'm sure definitely made up for the fact that their family members were ruthlessly executed. And that's it for this salty short. I really hope that we continue these Fan Post Fridays. I'm sorry for the delay in this one getting out, but, things and such. You all keep liking, sharing, commenting, and you become that top fan. And, hey, you can request a food or a story, but not both. You're not going to have a monopoly on my episodes. Not with Whiskey Cooks. I hope you guys enjoyed the recipe and this incredibly upliftingly, depressingly story. As always, stay legendary, be safe, and stay feisty. Keep cooking.